Courtney, what is up? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be on the podcast with you today. Courtney, before we start, I want to ask you a question that I ask everyone on this podcast because I think it's fun to know what people are all about at the moment. So, is there a song, a book, a life hack, a food, a restaurant that you are all about right now?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, let's say show was the kind of thing that stuck out to me. I am rewatching The Chosen. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes. I'm rewatching it for I think the third time because I just absolutely love it. And I'm all about like if I'm watching something or listening to something, I want it to like fill me up. So I try to stay away from shows that might infringe on obviously
Mm.
my faith, and so The Chosen is so powerful. So I am watching that. I'd say that's a big thing in my free time. I'm watching and I love it. So
That's awesome. I love that I love that you said that because The Chosen was something that when it came out, I was like, "Oh, super cool. Like I'm going to watch it." I ended up watching it just like one night in my dorm room and I was like, "You know what? This seems kind of weird. Like it feels strange just having the Bible acted out. Like we weren't there to see it, right?" And so I think for it to be on TV and on Netflix specifically, I was like, "All right, this is a little weird." I took a 3-week break and I came back to it and then I was hooked. I think I watched
hey,
the entire season in like 2 days and I don't usually watch TV. So like
yeah,
this was crazy for me and I absolutely loved it and I adored it. But it took me a little bit of time to like get over the hump of like seeing the Bible like on TV. I don't know why. It
great.
it took me a second, but it did. And I'm so glad that I went back and rewatched it because I genuinely felt like I had learned more about Jesus and like his character. And yes, like they're actors, like no one can fully be Jesus perfectly. But the
Right.
way that it played out the Bible, I was like, wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, it just like puts it into reality too. Like especially for like visual people. I mean, it's just so cool to see him depicted, and obviously again like you said, it's like an actor, but just the humility and the love and just his interactions with the disciples, like it's such a powerful a show. The show
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I think when is the next season coming out? I don't even know.
Well, they're on. Did you see season 4, the last one that came out? I think over the
No.
summer.
Oh, did it come out this summer? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I think I must have gone back and looked at him and like, oh, like I had already seen that. Maybe my family members and I are on the same Netflix account, so it looked like I had already watched it.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah, yeah. And then I think they're filming season 5 right now.
Okay, I gotta go
So
see it.
they're in production. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Well, there's our shout out for The Chosen. So everybody go watch that. It's awesome. I will say, if you're a little, intimidated by it at first, definitely go back and watch it again, or try it again because it's something that I was excited to watch and was like, "Whoa, like this is crazy! It's reality, but like Jesus and the Bible." And
Right.
it was cool. I did like it, so that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, and I hope some people are pointed to The Chosen because of that. Well, Courtney, you play soccer at New Mexico. What has been your favorite part of this season, this 2024 season so far?
Wow, yeah. So, I'd say first off, we are performing better than we did last year. So that's always good as a team. We're 5-1-1 right now. So that's cool on paper. But I'd say this season so far, we actually had a young adult night on Wednesday this week at the local church we all go to. And we had, I think, 14 teammates in total come to that night. Our roster is 34, but I think 14 is the most teammates that have ever come to like
Wow.
a young adult night. So I'd say like it just feels like there's revival happening. Like in Albuquerque on my team, me and one of my best friends like have been talking about it. How it's just so like seriously so encouraging to see our teammates come and show the willingness and just show the curiosity to know like more about Jesus. Again, they're people of that's like their first time coming to church, and so just to see that, like that's obviously a huge win for the kingdom of God, and that has nothing to do with soccer, but that's where we're at in ministry, right? Like on our team, and being able to see that and have them come, and potentially open up opportunities to talk about it later, like that's been the best part of this season so far. So
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that's awesome. And that was something that Riley Boone, I talked to her, she won national championships at Oklahoma University for softball. And she said the same thing. She was like, yeah, like we're winning games and won games. But the coolest part and my favorite part was to see the revival that was happening on our team. And like to see people's hearts change. I mean, that's got to be have way better impact and have a much better impact than any trophy than you're going to win. So that's
Absolutely.
awesome. So happy for you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, does your team have any fun traditions, routines that you guys do, maybe pregame or on the road? Like, what is New Mexico soccer? What's special about that?
Yeah, so I'd say first off, just the specialty of New Mexico soccer is just the culture. That's the reason I came to this school in the first place. Coaches, teammates, all of it. It's very focused on the person over the player. And that's honestly rare to find in programs. Obviously, again, there's always the urgency to win and want to perform, but just the idea of, again, valuing who we are, who our character is, and that we're all like not we all have other things going on, like we play soccer but it's not who we are, and
Mm.
obviously that's kind of a Christian trait as well, right? Our identity is not in soccer, and so to have that at New Mexico, again, valuing who we are is just so cool, and it's unlike anything I've ever had before, and it really makes us just a tight knit family because you see the person, for who they are, and all these differences, all the just diversity on the team. Again, it brings us together because yeah, we're there to win, we're there to work as hard as we can, give 100%, but also like we are family, we have each other's backs, and so we remind ourselves of that pretty much almost daily, of like that culture, and just our trust in each other. And again, that's like unlike any other program I've heard of from other people. Obviously, I've been at New Mexico my 4 years, but unlike even when I had at club, and so that's been just an incredible experience these past few years. So
Yeah, that's us. Well, just looking back on those 4 years, and I know you aren't gone yet, but when you reflect on your time at college, what like one piece of advice would you give someone that's coming into college athletics that you maybe would have wished that you had known before your freshman year?
yeah, I say the big one that sticks out, and it's kind of cliche, but just staying true to yourself. I'd say, like, coming into freshman year, it can be really intimidating. You have a bunch of new girls, a new system, new team that's very different than club sports and club soccer, for sure. And you can be kind of like thrown in and tossed around, and it can be very easy to like start to try to conform to maybe get approval from teammates, potentially from coaches, even. From maybe other sports even, and I just say, like, staying true to yourself, especially as Christian athletes, if you're going into college, with Christ as your firm foundation, staying true to that, like, it's a must, because again, if you don't have that firm foundation, you will get tossed in that wind, it will hit you. Again, there if you get attacked by the enemy, depression could start, anxiety, those kinds of things. And so I would just say staying true to yourself brings that joy, keeps that joy, even amongst maybe not playing freshman year, amongst potentially injuries. Again, amongst change is extremely hard, leaving home potentially. And so I'd say, particularly to Christian athletes as well, just stay true to Christ, and cling to Him, because there's so many changes. And I know it was extremely hard for me freshman year. It didn't take till that kind of freshman spring to really, kind of come back to that, and again find my true joy again. And so that's a huge thing that I've told even freshmen coming in now, advice, and that's one huge point that's been
Mhm.
consistent. So
Yeah, you're so right, and that's the hardest thing with college is you wanna just, like, fit in and go with the flow and be part of everything that's going on, but that's such a good piece, of advice for people is, like, stay true to you, and, like you said, even, like, things are gonna come up, change is gonna happen, you're gonna experience injury, you're gonna experience hard coaching, you're gonna experience being away from home, right? And so all those things, you need a firm foundation in order to get through those things, and something that I wanna ask you is how does someone stay true to themselves? And something that I had to do was like really surround myself in the best community that I could. I would go to our athlete Bible study on Monday nights because that like allowed me to be like, okay, here are some people who are also pursuing the Lord and are also pursuing their sport at the same time. And that allowed me to like stay on track. And obviously, I'm not perfect. I messed up a ton. I still mess up all the time, every single day. But having a community really allowed me to stay true to myself because those are people who spoke into me and were like, oh, hey, this is who you are. This is who you're supposed to be. This is who God says you are. And so I just wonder, like, how did you maybe like just a daily practical thing that someone could maybe add into their repertoire? Like, how did Courtney and how does Courtney stay true to herself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the biggest thing for that is getting in the Word for me, just daily. I always read in the morning and fix my eyes on Jesus immediately when I wake up and before I go into the day, go to practice in school. And so I'd say again that getting into the Word reminds you immediately what your identity is. And it also just reminds you of just Jesus, right? What he's done and who we are. Like we seriously live each and every day to glorify Jesus in all that we do. And so for me, that's been like the biggest thing is daily just reading and daily fellowship with God to remind myself of those things and then get in his presence. And again, just like that's, number one. And so taking care of that will help me then, in soccer and in school, loving others, being, ready to share the gospel if that comes, and even just, in soccer, just being joyful in it, to be honest. But I also agree with what you said, Annabelle, just about your community. I'd say, like, even if you had just one, like, really close friend, which is one of my best friends that I grew up with, knew each other since we were like 10, and we actually came to New Mexico together for a
Wow,
summer
how
together.
special. That's
Yeah, she's
awesome.
extremely special. And I'd say like having her just that accountability, but also just the bond, right? There's nothing that can break like the bond of a sister in Christ or a
Mhm.
brother in Christ. And so I'd say having that community and having, again, even if it's like one person who's like, on the same page with you, running the same race with you, that's huge because they remind you when maybe you slip up, you're getting, a little bit too into soccer, starting to potentially, idle soccer, you have someone to come and tell you like, hey, fix your eyes on Jesus. And that's like a
Mhm.
game changer because again, it's hard. We do slip up, we do fail, we fall, we get, thrown down by the world. And so to have someone to pick you up as well as you can pick them up, that fellowship is huge for reminding yourself of that identity. So
Courtney, you are on it. This is so good. I love what you're saying. And it's just because I can so relate to it.
yeah.
I was just in Seattle, Washington, which is the opposite coast of where I am right now, Boston, Massachusetts. And I got to catch up with a childhood best friend, my girl, Brielle Baker, and sister in Christ since the day I can remember, but I moved out. I moved out from Seattle when I was 10. So we never lived near each other for the next 13, 14 years of my life. And me being able to go back, and hard to stay in touch when you don't go to the same schools, you're that far away and all the things. And I probably only visited maybe once a year, honestly. And during those times, I could maybe or maybe not see her. So really saw her pretty infrequently, but stayed in touch. And having the chance to go back and see her this summer, like it was like we didn't miss a single day, and we were able to connect, and she was able to speak into my life about relationships, careers, family, sports, like transitions in life, like all the
Yeah.
things. And me, I could do the same thing for her because we have that foundation on Jesus and like would trust her with anything. And so just like you said, like I was able to pick up with her so easily, no problem, because well, Jason, are we all good? Can you hear us? Okay, maybe not. Okay. Anyway, I was able to pick up right with her where
Mhm.
like right where we left off. And that's only because we have that foundation in Jesus Christ and we can speak into each other's lives like that and hold each other accountable, which is so special. So I'm glad that you talked about that. And that's guys and girls. Like guys, you probably have experienced that too. So I just love that you talked about that. That's so special. Well, Courtney, you did bring up injury, and I want to talk about this because It's unique to some people, but it's also not that unique. Like when you play a sport, you're going to get hurt, and so everyone is going to face injuries of some sort at some point in their athletic career. And you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but you tore your ACL not once but twice.
Correct. Yes.
Correct,
On each
right,
leg.
and right, and so that is something, and I just know from my little sister Mallory, who we are best friends, she has tore her ACL twice, and so when you said that to me before we got on here, I was like, "Oh my word," it felt like someone had stabbed me in the heart just because I haven't torn my ACL twice, but watching my sister go through it, like, man, I just felt for you, and so, I just wanna use the next couple minutes to talk about, like, those injuries and just kind of walk me through like how did you get through that and what was that like? So maybe could you just start by like when did you tear your ACL the first time and kind of what that process was like going through that recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what was crazy is my throughout my whole career, like the one thing I said I didn't want to happen was to tear my ACL. It was like I will take because I mean, even back in club, I don't want to take up the whole podcast talking about all the injuries I've had, but had a lot of, I broke my ankle, high ankle sprain, hyperextended knees, concussions. I mean, I know all athletes, like it's just like tons of injuries, but I said I would take, any ankle injury, even an hyperextended knee over an ACL. Like I was like, I'll take it. But it was October of my senior year, or I'm sorry, junior year. And oh no, sorry, it was senior year. Sorry, senior year of high school. October. I was in a game, just took a weird little cut, and I actually walked off the field. Then went to like the hospital, was waiting for an MRI all day. It was like 8 hours. Doctor comes in and says you tear ACL, and it was like heartbreak. Again, just for that same reason, I was like, couldn't ever imagine an ACL. Then you think of like, oh my gosh, that's 9 months, that's surgery. It was that my world was very broken that night when I found that out, and I was very obviously not as strong in my faith as I am now back then, but it was a hard moment because I was like, I can't let this break my world when I say, I'm living for Jesus and I know that his plans are good. Like I have to stay true to that. And it was very like that was a hard moment, especially like that specific night because I had to accept the reality that this was real now. But yeah, then went along with the surgery. Had great rehab, but I was headed in my senior year, was heading into college that next July, reporting in July, starting season in August. And so the timeline of it was I was reporting to college at about 7.5 months of the ACL recovery. And that was extremely tough because I was at the tail end of the recovery, but still kind of non-contact, not in soccer shape at all, getting my strength back still. And so coming into college with that going on was extremely difficult
Mhm.
because I wasn't ready to go as a freshman. I didn't do as well on even the fitness test. So it felt like, oh my gosh, they think I didn't work hard, but it's just because I'm coming back from injury. They don't really like know me yet. And that was like extremely hard. I ended up I started playing. Actually, I started contact play like without even non-contact. So praise God, I didn't hurt myself in a different way through
Wow.
the knee. But I started playing, and I mean it was going well. I was slowly coming back, trying to get over like those mental blocks. But that recovery, I mean, the beginning of it is terrible. The surgery that first full month is like painful. It's very tough. But after that, I mean, it's a lot of just day in and day out, like strength training and movements as well. But yeah, so then that took me into my freshman year of college, and I didn't really hit my stride until that spring during our spring season, which we play in the fall. So spring is just kind of unofficial games. But I didn't hit my stride until about 15 months after that first ACL, and then I tore my second ACL at that 15-month mark that
Was that
next.
your same leg or different leg?
It was my other leg.
Man, so you're just about coming back. Like you're basically back and then you tear your other ACL.
Right.
So,
And
like, what was you do that, you go down and, like,
right.
I just, like, got a cold chill through my body because that was not the same timeline, but kind of similar in, like, the sense of, like, what happened with my sister, and I was, like, there when it happened, and it just was, like, traumatic. So, what was your, like, initial thought? You go down, you're probably like, "I know this feeling before. I've felt this. I know exactly what this is. I don't need a trainer to tell me." What was your initial thought process then?
Yeah. So surprisingly, I was optimistic for some reason. This one hurt way worse. I couldn't walk off the field. It was way worse than the first time. Um, and I don't know why. I mean, I had a feeling, but I don't know why I was like, well, just wait for the results, like wait for the MRI, like wait for, the doctor to confirm it. I don't know if that was just like God protecting me in those moments. But another funny thing is I said, if I tear my ACL again, I'm quitting soccer
Wow.
because of how just hard it was to come back from the first ACL, how hard the recovery was in itself. And so when that happened, I was kind of hit with this. Like I said that I was going to quit if I had a second ACL. But I sincerely felt like God was like, no, like you're meant to play. Like I'm sorry that I'm going to make you go through this again, but like
Mhm.
it is going to produce so much, like not even perseverance, but it's also going to like impact your teammates and other people with these, um, with injuries and even just other people on your team. And so I actually didn't even like question coming back from the second ACL. Like I was like, I know it's going to suck. I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be a long like journey again, but like I can do it. Like God
Mhm.
can strengthen me. He will. He did it the first time. Like he can do it again. And so I went through that process. And I actually was reading this morning in Second Corinthians 1, and that just like came to my mind real quick. Cause it talks, Paul talked about like suffering, and like we suffer for the sake of like God can use that to help other people, and like suffering like Christ did. And that's exactly how I felt about those
Mhm.
injuries. It's like it has given me a platform, even right now, to speak about it, a platform to other people who hurt their knees, other people, even just teammates again. And it's such a huge part of my testimony that I can talk about that and then talk about Jesus immediately after that. And it's given me such a platform to do that. And so, I mean, I've told my parents too, like if I had to go through two ACLs again to be able to have like the opportunity to speak about Jesus, I would. Like they
Mm.
were long recoveries. They were painful mentally, physically, emotionally, but I would do it again, for what Jesus has used it for, and used it for his glory ultimately. So yeah, then I came
Courtney,
back.
that is so powerful. I just wanna stop you there, like, I have a tear that I'm like I started leaning back because 'cause I'm like, "Don't cry, don't cry. We're not even halfway through this interview." But that is just oh my gosh, that is so powerful of you to say, and, like, no one would expect that, right? No one would expect for, like, one of the most severe things to happen to an athlete is tearing their ACL, and, like, no one would expect for you to say that, like, "Okay, if it's gonna, like, allow people to hear more about Jesus and allow people to see Jesus more, like, then bring it on, God," right? And so, like, that
Yeah.
is absolutely crazy, but that doesn't happen unless you have your eyes and your mind shifted on the Lord and being like, "Okay, God, like, you allowed this to happen. Now what do you need me to do through this time? And, like, how are you gonna use me through this time?" So, I just kinda wanna before you go on, I know I interrupted you, sorry,
No
but
worries.
I just want you to expand on that because, like, somebody might have just torn their ACL and they might be listening to this, and for them to understand and be able to have peace in this situation, like, you will only have peace in this situation if you are looking at God through it. So, like, how did you do that? How did you go about, like, those really hard recovery days of PT and maybe just, like, the mundaneness of standing at practice and watching and, just how did you handle that day on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it wasn't easy, and I think that's, like, a part of it is realizing again, yeah, it's not gonna be easy, but, again, that daily strength from God, like, to be like, "I don't know what you have in store today, like, I know it's gonna be tough," when you're only in, like, month 2 of recovery, and it's, like, looking at this mountain of, like, 9 months or even to a year of, like, recovery, like, that can be very intimidating, and I would just say again, like he uses things for good. Another verse I like is Genesis 50:20. What was made for evil, God will use for good. Like, the enemy wants to take you out of the sport, wants to try to attack your identity, even wants you to quit potentially, because he wants to take away your opportunity to speak about Jesus to your team. And that's such a huge like role. And you're around, these other athletes daily. You make bonds that are unlike anything else. And it's such a, like, again, profound role that you get to just be able to impact people's lives day to day, even if it's not directly speaking with them. It's in how you live, it's in even maybe what you post on social media, what they're seeing, like just your connection with people is so powerful. And so again, the enemy wants to take you from that. Like, again, if I would have quit, I wouldn't have had the last year and a half of impacting teammates and getting to see life change that encourages me too. And so I would just say, like, again, persevere to the end. Like, God will strengthen you. And again, there may be a time where he will speak to you and say, like, calling you somewhere else. Like, God speaks to us each individually. But I believe that, like, injuries, like, again, are the enemy trying to take you away. And I think God, like, will, and yeah, he will strengthen you. And just call upon that strength each and every day. Like, I can't tell you how many times, even when I'm healthy, like, I just have to pray, like, Lord, help me today. Like, I know it's going to be a hard practice. I know I'm weary right now. Like, I don't know if I can make it through. So Lord, help me. And he will, he'll send his helper, he'll send the Spirit with us. And I just believe that that's a daily thing to call upon. And that really does, again, just help your strength. It helps your joy, helps your peace. In those hard days, like, you get through them because of that power of the
Mhm.
Spirit and of God.
Yeah, I called on God a lot during practices throughout high school and college. A lot of mostly during conditioning where I'd be like, "Okay, God, like, I'm feeling the lungs start to go.
Yeah,
I feel that hip flexors start to tighten up. I'm gonna need you on this one." So
right.
I so hear you on that, but and maybe people think that's silly, like, okay, why would I talk to God during practice? But like, no, like, talk to God. Like, seriously, and he will help you and he will open your eyes. Like,
Yeah,
and if he doesn't come in that moment, then like that's what it's supposed to be. Like, oh well.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's good. But I just want to know, was there anyone throughout this recovery process, and we'll get to like, coming back in that full comeback day,
Mhm.
but was there someone during this process who specifically like really got you through it? Maybe it was like just a lunch lady who smiled at you all the time in the middle of your day and made you, have another new sense of joy. Or was it what are your parents, a coach, maybe a role model that you looked up to, teammates? Like, was there one specific person? And I know there's probably a lot of people, but was there one specific person who, when you think back on that journey, you were like, wow, like I could not have made it without them?
Yeah. So of course, yeah, my parents were always there. They're always there for me. They're amazing supports and encouragers. But I'd say the biggest person was a teammate who actually tore her ACL the day after I tore mine. And
Wow, that's crazy
we,
timing.
yeah, the day after, less than 24 hours. And again, it was heartbreaking the day after mine to see her go down. And she had dealt with so many injuries in college, like barely even had played college soccer because of the injuries. And having that happen, we instantly obviously bonded. We literally got surgery on the exact same day. And so our recovery process, we went through it together day in and day out. And I would say, like, sincerely, like, it was God. I mean, it was literally God that
Mhm.
that happened, that we had each other to go through it together, and to encourage each other each and every day. And again, sometimes it can get, like, if you're recovering, like, on your own, like, it can be hard, like, when you're just by yourself. And so having, her name was Rosie, having Rosie by my side, again, we were able to encourage each other, push us through. And also I was able to just speak about my faith, how I got through my first ACL. That was her first ACL. So it was also just another ministry moment to talk to her about, like, hey, it's hard, but we're going to get through this together. Like, I got through it last time because of God. Like, we're getting through it this time because of God. And so, yeah, to this day, like, that has bonded us, like, best friends. Like, obviously before that we were teammates and friends, but that, I mean, created a bond that will last forever. And I'm like extremely thankful that, again, it was a horrible thing that happened, tearing your ACL for both of us. But I mean, the timing of it again speaks to God, and that's what He does every time. And so yeah, she's definitely the one that helped me through.
Crazy timing. To have someone on your team go through that same process with you,
Yeah.
so awesome, and I bet in the same way that you spoken to her, um, she's spoken to you in different ways when you even know that you needed her, and just her presence being
Mhm.
there was helpful. I know when I went through, not as bad as ACLs, but just, like, soft tissue injuries, and maybe I wasn't the only girl on the bike during the runs, during conditioning runs, and there were other girls with me, like, this stinks. We want to be out there with our teammates running, but like, look at all these girls that are going through this with me. And there's strength in numbers. There really is. And even what was cool for me in some of those moments too, were girls who couldn't run or bike would be cheering on the girls who were biking and running. Like, having people be supportive throughout your injury road to recovery, like that, you need community around you. And I would say even it's just as important when you're not injured, right? Like, you need people around you at all times when you're going
Yeah.
through really hard things. So I love that that was part of your story, and this is so cool. So cool, the timing of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So awesome. Well, Courtney, when you think about that first day back after tearing your second ACL and you're cleared to run and they're letting you loose, can you just walk me through what that day was like?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like on fire. I mean, it's just passion like through the roof. And just so much joy, like just to see like the hard work put in, like come to fruition. And um, again, even like for me, thinking that I could have quit after the second ACL. And I mean, it's just a testament to God and his strength through me. I sincerely don't think I could do it without him. Um, and coming back from that and just again seeing like the hard work come to fruition and just getting to do like what I love to do again. um it's That's the best part, right? Coming back from the injury, and it almost is just so sweet, like when you just play, if that injury never happened, like sometimes you don't get to experience like that moment. And
Mhm.
again, it just makes all those hard recovery days worth it. And again, it's such a huge part of my story, my college journey, even my testimony. And so yeah, those are great days, really good days.
Your first game back, what was that like stepping on the game field for the first time? Were you like, "Shoot, I kind of forget how to hit somebody?" Or like, how did that feel? How did that go down?
Yeah, I would say I'm gonna be honest, it's mentally tough. I wish I could just say it was like let loose, scored 3 goals, like everything went perfect. But that's not the reality. With 2 ACLs, even now, some of those mental just blocks and things almost that feel like I can't even access like those feelings or reserves, just of fear of potentially getting injured again, or things like that. Those were real. And so stepping on the field was exhilarating. And I'd say, I think last year we played Texas Tech, our first game. So that was my first official game in the fall. And I mean, yeah, it was exhilarating. I mean, I remember it. Um, I don't obviously remember the fear being like, taking me away from the game or anything. But that also was like a theme later in the season. Um, but yeah, it's just to be on the field with my teammates and to be dressed out and have them, play the little screen with Courtney Fernau like coming in the game and stuff like
Yes.
that. I mean, that's college sports. It's like so exciting, and it's everything you dream of when you're looking into college soccer. And so yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
That's so awesome. I can kind of picture that, and I don't know what your New Mexico stadium looks like, but I can picture your name across the scoreboard with your roster photo, and how cool of a moment that must have been for you, and just like you said, exhilarating. But you're so right to say that there is probably a lot of fear in um just coming back, that process, and having to, think through, oh shoot, what if this happens again in certain things? And can I tap into this? Can I do this move? Can I run this fast? Like those thoughts are definitely really real. And so I just want to ask, maybe because I know I thought those thoughts with a less severe injury. I had a really bad hamstring injury that lasted like 2 years plus. And I remember being totally cleared and totally healthy, yet I was still running like I was hurt. And I was still almost like phantom pain in a weird way because my body was so accustomed to what I couldn't do for so long. And it really took like just trust and belief that like my body was going to be okay to be able to do certain moves.
Yeah.
So I would just ask you, like, how did you, and maybe you're still working through it, maybe it's something that comes and goes, but like, how do you handle like kind of putting that fear away when you're nervous about your past injuries?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I would just say, I mean, prayer has been a huge thing. And again, a daily prayer for every practice, every game. And it's really just been like a practice of surrendering it to God, and in a way of like, I know that he can remove that fear immediately. And sometimes it's been hard to deal with the idea of like, my faith is so strong, like why do I still have these fears, fear of injury, even fear of failure. That was a big thing back in my old club days, just with some coaches and stuff, that kind of gave me a fear of failure. So both of those things, it's like, how can I have like, I can't have a spirit of fear when I'm, filled with the spirit of God. And so I would say, again, that's also just like the enemy trying to attack and like make me insecure about my faith. And so again, prayer, going to God and just, simply asking, right? Ask, seek, and knock. Asking him to remove that fear first and foremost, and allowing me even this season just to unlock, those things that I feel like I can't even access of fear, and allowing his spirit to like mend those and to like override it and just give me a passion that is unexplainable. So yeah, I'd say prayer is a huge thing that had been last season, and again, even a theme this season, specifically for every practice, every game, just like really just trying to bring those moments to the Lord and allowing him to, work in the ways that only he can. And there's definitely, I would say it's like moments. There's moments where I feel like that freedom fully, and then moments that I potentially feel kind of that like barrier again. But for the most part, just the joy like of the Lord, regardless of whether I feel like completely free or feel like I'm thinking about an injury or whatnot. Like that's been consistent, especially this season. Like, I get to play. I've got to play even last season, coming back from the other injury. And I'm just thankful that I get to be out there and that it's so much more even than the sport. Like I get to, be on mission for Jesus in this sport. And that's regardless of, if I'm playing the whole 90 minutes starting or, playing 40 minutes or,
Mhm.
even if an injury does happen again. And so, that's helped me just to have like that peace, in God's plan for my life. And also just looking on his past faithfulness through the injuries, through the play, back in the day. And that has helped me, today again, to have that joy and peace.
That is so good. I love what you said about like filling yourself with the spirit of God, because then there's like no room for the spirit of the devil, right? And so
Yeah.
I think, and the evil one, and I just think that's such a good way to think about it, because it's like a good visual for some people, like fill your brain up with the good stuff and then there's no room for the bad stuff. And if you just keep, and like you said, you had to pray, you had to read scripture, like those are things that you have in yourself. And earlier, this was something I wanted to go back to too. Earlier you said how you read scripture in the morning,
Mhm.
and that maybe that would give you an opportunity to talk about that and share what you read that morning with someone, maybe one of your teammates or someone that you had in class. And I think that was such a practical way to like share the gospel, because if you are studying the word and you are reading in the morning or you are listening to worship music, it's something to talk about later. Like it's just a talking point. It's like, oh hey, like you like that song? Oh, I listened to this song this morning actually. Like it just
Exactly.
came up this morning, right? So I love that you said that. And that's something that I'm gonna take with me, is just like fill yourself when you feel that fear coming over. like that fear level. I don't know. I'm like a visual learner, like the fear level of the devil and then the spirit of the devil. And then you got the spirit of Jesus. And it's like, you just keep pouring the spirit of Jesus and the devil's going to go. Oh, there we go. For people who aren't watching the podcast, this makes a lot more sense. So that's so good. I love how you explain that. And so just your soccer career, man, it has been up and down, but just to see and hear how you have chosen to choose joy and to find Jesus in all of those circumstances, this conversation is completely going to bless someone who maybe hasn't even gone through an injury like this yet, or maybe multiple injuries, and they are going to really hit their comeback hard because of Courtney and your testimony. So thank you for sharing all of that. But not just on the soccer field is where you're being a light. You also have a Christian clothing brand. So I'd love to talk about this. Can you tell me Reverent Awe Designs?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So first I just want to know, where did that name come from?
Yes. Love it. So it comes from Hebrews 12:28, which is talking about having reverence and awe for God, that the only appropriate response to God is reverence and awe, because he's given us an unshakable kingdom. And so that's where it comes from, just this whole idea of standing in awe of Jesus. And this kind of sparked from a few things. One of my favorite sermons ever, which I'll shout out, my Christ Church in Arizona, Gilbert, Arizona. It was an idea of just being an eager await of Jesus, that he's coming back. And so each and every day is a day, to await him, to do the things, to be ready, to be prepared for his return. And that idea sparked, again, just the idea of being ready, and with being ready is, again, fixing your eyes on Jesus, and ultimately being in reverence of him for what he's done. And so that name sparked, along with my parents. We went through a few names, and that's the one that really stuck, because that's what we really want. We want to spread the fame of Jesus, and we want to spread the awe for him. Like, he is so worthy of all of that and more, all the praise, honor, and glory. And so I love that, even just with the name, I feel like sometimes, like, people are like, they question, right? What's Reverent Awe? What does that mean? And so I love that even just in the name, I get to, like, proclaim Jesus and the gospel, simply with just the name to start. So
Yeah. That's so cool. And just not everyone your age. How old are you? 22, 21,
21.
21. Not a lot of 21-year-olds are starting their own business, right? So, like, why? Why did you start this, and when did you start this?
Yeah, so the first idea started last April. And so I like to do calligraphy, which is like lettering. I've done it since I honestly can remember, probably started in like middle school. Obviously, it's just like a hobby. And then as I got older, I started doing like custom signs, especially for my two older sisters, as they were getting married and then started having kids. I did signs for both of their weddings, and then their, like, gender reveals, and then their baby showers. And so I was doing all this work, and it was always like, oh, maybe you should get on Etsy, like, and sell canvases, or do something with it. Like, you should do something with this. And then one day my parents just, like, came to me, and they were like, what if you designed, like, Christian tees, like, with your calligraphy? And again, that was, I guess, just the spirit of God talking to them, and planting that seed of that idea. And then from there, it just was like, yeah, we're running with that. We're going to do it. So I started, with a first design, which was the In Awe of Jesus t-shirt, of course. And we, started mocking up. Then we started, looking into the actual business and LLC and all that fun stuff, which I've learned so much about, just the business world, even through this. We got the name, secured that, started like our website, the domain, all that fun stuff as well, designing the website, all that, and officially launched actually a year ago, last September. That was when we officially
Wow.
launched the website and launched.
Congratulations. 1 year. Let's go.
So, and I mean, even like this past year from last September, like, it has grown so much, not even in just like the designs and products. But again, just the dream of the business to be able to, like, use the t-shirts to talk about Jesus, like, it's a reality. Like I
Mhm.
believe literally every time I've worn a shirt, it sparked a conversation. Even people who just hear about, hey, like you have a business, I've heard, like I've been able to talk about it. And I know the same for people who, my friends who wear the shirts, they're like, they always, ask me about it. And so it's so cool, even though it's, not like 10 million followers or anything like that, but just the fruit of it I've seen has been worth, everything. And I'm
Mhm.
just so thankful that I get to have the business and just use my talents. Like Ephesians 4 talks about, like God gifts the body with talents, and to be able to use like what he's given me to like bring it back to him. I mean, it's like a dream. It really is a dream. So
Yeah, that is so cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, you just said like you learned a lot from the business side. So I bet you're learning a lot of things just all
absolutely.
around, which is very good life skills. Okay. Just from the lemonade stands I did growing up, man, I learned a lot. I learned
Yes.
where was the money going? We had like 10 kids all there. I left with a quarter. Like,
Right.
you learn a lot when you start a business. So I guess my question for you is what's one piece of advice or maybe just encouragement for someone who's like, man, I feel like I'm being called to, start something new. Maybe it's not a business, but maybe it's just like a product that you want to do, or maybe just artwork, or um, just creating something of your own that you're putting your name on. Like, what encouragement would you give someone who wants to take that leap and wants to, do that alongside probably all the other things that they're doing? Um, like, what encouragement can you give them?
Yeah, well, first I'd say, like, if you feel that way, like, go for it, like, really chase after it, and especially if, like, you feel that calling from God, like, run with it. And then my second part of that is just to be patient, and to give it time. I'd say that's a big thing, like, when even last September when we launched, like, you have this like, expectation isn't maybe even said, but just the expectation that, oh my gosh, this is gonna like blow up, or it's gonna boom. And um, it was hard at first to not think like my people even around me, like, they had so much like interest in it, and we wanted it to spread obviously rapidly, and that's just a little bit unrealistic. And there were so many things that needed to still happen, like even with the website, just making sure everything was running smoothly, shipping, like, just logistical things like that. And making sure that, all the pictures and products like look good on the website, and making sure, inventory is all taken care of, and, what we actually have is what's listed. Like, I'd say all those little things, like God has given us time to work through those, little flaws potentially, and work through and get the website and get the business to where we
Mhm.
wanted to, even get the social media to where we really wanted it to. And then that time was, precious, because I don't think I really was ready last September, even though it was like the official launch. Like, there was so much more work to be done. And so I would just say be patient. I mean, in everything, that's a huge, just even life lesson. But just being patient with, a business, like it takes time to really flourish. It takes time to even get it started. And so just being like gracious with yourself, and just patient in the process, and just like enjoy all those things, because there really will be so much things to learn, that will help you through that, and even just again in life. And so yeah, I'd say those two things: run after it, and be patient.
I love that you said be patient, and especially like just talking about even just your social media and the product, and it probably wasn't ready for it to boom, like when it we needed God to kind of hide us. And like I just want to encourage anyone who's listening to this and kind of feels like, "Oh, why am I not like taking off in my career? Why am I not the star player? Why am I not my business isn't booming?" Right? But it's like sometimes God has you in a private place for a reason. Probably because, like, you aren't ready, like, right? And that's probably the main reason, and so, like, that stinks, but just, like, being patient, like you said, that is such good advice, and, I love that, and I'm so excited about it. I'm gonna check out your website now, and I guess what I should ask you, just from a buyer's perspective, Courtney, what's your favorite product? What should I go get?
Ooh, okay. Well, I would say our best seller is our "You Are Loved." We have tees and sweatshirts, and we'll have long sleeves as well, here soon. So I'd say the You're Loved is again like the best. Also just in wearing it, I mean it's super cute. There's a bunch of different
Right?
colors.
I can
But
get behind super cute and you are loved.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's also, I mean, just an amazing message. Like, I would say, if you ask anyone in the world, like, what's the one thing like they want? Like, I feel like love is like such a huge, desire topic, and to know that we're, loved more than you could ever know by Jesus who died to know us. I just would think that's such a cute design, but it's also such a
Mhm.
powerful message. But there are tons of products on there. I love like the Jesus Saves shirt is awesome. Again, just bold, um, and again bold proclamation of faith. But yeah, there's tons of stuff on there: sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeves, some bags, like super
Love
cute
it.
stuff.
I think I
So
see one bag in your background.
yes, yeah,
I
that's
like
me.
it. So how can people go what should people do right now? Like, if they wanna go check out your stuff, where should they go?
Yes, yeah. So the website is www.reverentawe.com. REVERENTAWE. I know Reverent sometimes is hard to spell. I always used to spell it with an A instead of an E. So I understand how some people can mess up that spelling. So I spelled it out for you.
Not here, not today.
Yes, exactly. But also I have a discount code if someone's watching.
Ooh,
And
let's
you
go. Discount code.
We love discounts. So the discount code is REVAWESS10. So that
Love
stands
it.
for Reverent Awe Sports Spectrum 10. But yeah, that will get you a little discount, and we'll know it's from whoever watched it, and so that'll be exciting to see.
That's
But
good. Well, we'll post about it too. So if people want to have it that they can see written down, we'll get that out. But Courtney, this was awesome. And I want to ask you one last question before we wrap up here that I ask everyone is pregame. Do you listen to headphones? Do you use headphones or no headphones before game?
headphones for
Okay,
sure.
what are you listening to?
I'm just listening to like my favorite Christian songs, to be honest, and I'll give a few of them right now that I
Yeah, shout them out.
Something About That Name, by Ann Wilson, I believe. Beautiful song. It's kind of calmer. So I like a kind of a variety. I know a lot of people like really, really pump up music. But I can kind of have a variety of that, like, those pop, like Christian
Hmm.
songs. But I also have some, like, it's not super slow, but it's probably slower than what you'd say is like hype pregame songs. But that song is, I mean, beautiful. And again, just reminds me of Jesus, and that gets me going. I'd say In the House by Crowder, that's a more like hype pregame song that I've been liking. Um, yeah, those are just the two off the top of my head.
Good.
But I kind of just shuffle my Christian playlist, and I have some more upbeat songs in there. Like Hillsong or what's another, those kinds of songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are what get me ready to go.
Let's go. New Mexico soccer. On fire. Let's go, Courtney. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And this was an amazing conversation for me. And just knowing, your story and hearing the ups and downs of it, and just your how you are on fire for Jesus. It is so cool. And just getting to like hear from you is helps me get through my day, right? And so I hope that this can do the same for others. And check out Courtney's brand. I'll link the discount code in the show notes and all the things on Instagram. Courtney, you are someone that people should definitely be following. So thank you for coming on the Sports Spectrum's What's Up podcast. It was so fun to have you on here.
Yes.
And good luck with the rest of your season.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Seriously, like it's just incredible. I love Sports Spectrum, what you guys stand for. And again, it's such a great intersection of sports and Jesus, and so impactful. And so, yeah, I'm so excited to see how the Lord uses this in people's lives. So, thank you so much for having me.